Hi friends, this is Pradeep, and today we are going to discuss about, or rather, I'm going to discuss about the vibration of continuous structures. The continuous structure includes the structures like beam, plates, membrane, strings. So these are the vibration. These are the continuous structures. Now, in the discussion or in the topic, we will be discussing about vibration of string, or rather, we can say deriving the equation of motion of vibration of string, beams. Then torsion. If we apply the torsion, then what will be the corresponding equation of motion of the beam or bar rather? And henceforth we will be discussing one of the important formulas, or rather a very important principle of non-linear dynamics, that is variational principle or Hamilton's variational principle, from where we will be further deriving the equation of motion of these things. So let us start with the transverse vibration of string. So what is actually string? String is actually a one-dimensional elastic continuous and doesn't transmit or resist bending moment. Okay. Examples is a musical instrument, means we speak about guitar, say cable on a bridge, high tension cable. These are the example of transverse vibration of strings. Now, what are the assumptions in the mathematical model that we take? The first is motion is planar, that is taking in two axes, x and x and y axis. Then xy plane rather. Then slope of the string is small. Why we took the slope of the string is small, we will deal with it later, because while deriving we will be considering as it as a very small means a small slope. Longitudinal motion is negligible, and tension does not change with displacement of string. Okay, so you can see here the spring. Rather, I can make use of, yeah, I can make use of the marker. You can see this string, sorry, not spring, it is string. This string has a vertical displacement. Say suppose we are considering only y and x axis as our general coordinates. Suppose I make a vertical displacement which is nothing but wx of x of t. That is, this vertical displacement is varying with respect to the longitudinal axis x and with respect to time also. This string has a property, that is rho, that is mass per unit volume. A of x, that means area is also, the cross sectional area is actually a function of this longitudinal direction. Then T is the tension, L is the length. Okay, now what we will do, we will take a very small element and we will analyze it here. We take a very small element whose length is ds. Okay, till here the coordinate is x and here it is x plus delta x. Okay, now the tension that we will find here in right hand side of the string is T of x plus delta x, and T is a function of the longitudinal. As I told you, the tension is a function of longitudinal axis and a time also. In the left hand side we are seeing the tension is T x plus T x T as a function of displacement, or sorry, not displacement, it's a function of longitudinal distance and time. This alpha is the angle, that is angle which is also a function of x and t. Here also it will find the angle, that is x plus delta x and t. So, and there are two things that we have considered here. First, P of x of t, if you can see, it is the net vertical force that is acting in a y direction, and n x of t, which is the net net horizontal force which is acting here. These two. Okay, so we are considering all possible cases that we can face in our in this particular scenario. So what we will do, we will find now just simple Newtonian laws. We will apply some Newtonian laws in horizontal or longitudinal direction, and then Newtonian law in vertical direction. So I will be balancing the force. So after once I try to balance the force, we will see it is T cos, in this direction it is something called T cos theta, and also something like that. Here also T x plus delta x T cos theta. So here we will get this equation, minus T x of t cos x of t, plus since n of x of t is there, that is the additional force in horizontal, so we will keep it here, is equal to 0. Okay, now this entire term, for a very small, what we can write, we can write del by del x of T of x t cos alpha x of t plus n of x of t is equal to 0. Okay, Got the point? Means why? Because I have considered this particular delta x tends to very, very small. When I keep it very small, it is nothing but this change of dtx in horizontal direction plus n of xt, that is the resultant force that is acting in x direction. Now, for a very small alpha, what is the value of cos alpha? It is nearly equal to 1. Okay, so we ultimately get the equation implies del t by del x plus n of x comma t is equal to 0. Okay, now in thesis papers or journals, what we find here is generally they use these type of expressions for differentiation. You will find this very common in our discussion. So whenever I say del of x, it actually means t comma x. Whenever I say del square dt square, it actually means t comma double t. Okay, if I say suppose del square t by del x del t, it actually means t comma x and then t. Okay, this is how the differentiation, partial differentiation, has been explained here. Now let us see the transverse equation. Transverse equation means the equation that we are seeing in a vertical, the forces we will be balancing in a vertical direction. The same thing we will do here. You see, if we will balance in a vertical direction, what all forces are there? Here you will find external force P of x of t, t of x plus delta xt, and here you will find downward t of x. Okay, now you see this, the same expression that you find here, this one is equal to m into a. Why? Because my spring is going here, we see my spring is going in upward direction. Okay, so from here I took a very small element, and since I have given a displacement upward direction of wx comma t, so this is nothing but my mass w, means d square, w by dt square is what? It's nothing, acceleration. So this is the net force that is acting. This is the force or tension that is acting on a right hand side. This is the force or tension, sorry, that is acting on a left hand side, plus this p of x of t. That is, this is the net force that is, or not net force rather, it is the force, external force that is already present here. Okay, so in order to generalize it, I already considered this force to be already present in the string. Okay, so once I do it, I will be getting expression somewhere like this. Okay, because after getting this expression, what I will do, I will take a very small element, that means delta x tends to 0. So I will be getting an expression like this, that is rho a w comma x double t, rather d square w by dt square is equal to t sine alpha x of t comma x, that is, it is also its entire term is differentiated by x plus p of x of t. So finally I will getting something equation like this. But between this, what you will see here is, you see this is sine alpha of x of t, right? So we know that sine alpha, this is my string. Okay, so I can consume this as my string. Now this sine alpha is what? This is nothing but AC by AB. Sine alpha is nothing but AC by AB. Now when alpha tends to 0, I can say, right, this AB will equal to BC. Yes or no? So that means when my sine theta is very, very small, I can replace this AB by BC. That means sine alpha is also equal to AC by BC. That actually mean it can be equal to tan alpha. And what is this tan alpha? This tan alpha is nothing but dw by dx. That is the local coordinate dw by generalized coordinate dx, we can say. So here sine alpha, how can I replace? I can replace this by this one, w comma x, that is dw by dx, then whole differentiation with respect to x. So therefore my entire term can become like this. Okay, this is the basic funda we have seen, right? When alpha tends to 0, sine alpha or sine theta or sine alpha or sine theta, whatever angle you take, it tends to become tan theta tan alpha, because the same sine theta when x tends to sine theta when theta tends to 0 is equal to 0, tan theta also when theta tends to 0 is equal to 0. It's one and the same thing. Just we have replaced this alpha value with some known quantity, that is dw by dx. Okay, so this is the final expressions that we got in the vertical direction. Okay, so this is second order hyperbolic partial integrals. Now there are two types of boundary conditions. in the research paper or in the thesis paper, you will find these type of boundary condition. First is geometrical or essential boundary condition. What are these geometrical essential boundary condition? This is by geometry. For example, if I take a simply supported beam, okay, in a simply supported beam, I know that the deflection, I repeat again, deflection is 0. This deflection, say this is A and this is B, deflection at A is 0, deflection at B is equal to 0. So this is by default by geometry only. There is no, we are not executing any force here to keep the deflection 0. So this is, it is called geometrical or essential boundary conditions. Okay. Now, what is dynamic or natural? Let us take the example of cantilever beam. Cantilever beam. At the end, is there any force that you can see? No. So here we can say, right, shear force is equal to 0. We will see later on, we will be discussing all these things. Is there any bending moment 0? No. Bending moment is also not 0. And what is, how can we define shear stress? I think in Macaulay principles, we have seen the slope and all those things. From there we can derive the shear force formula. I think it is EI d square W by dx square, that is moment, is equal to 0. Again we can integrate it, so we will find, or rather differentiate it, sorry, because V is equal to dm by dx, we can get V is equal to EI d cube W, I repeat, W is nothing but the vertical deflections that we can use, is equal to 0. So these two are 0 here, and this is nothing but our natural boundary conditions. Okay, dynamic or natural boundary conditions. That means the boundary conditions which includes force or moments are called natural boundary conditions, and the boundary conditions which include the geometry are called geometrical boundary conditions or essential boundary conditions. Okay. Now let us move on. Let us see an example, thus deriving the equation of motion for the vertical axis and the horizontal axis for bar. So here, what the assumptions that we are taking here? First, all points of the cross section have a same motion. Strain is very, very small. That is no transverse motion. There is no motion in y direction. Then it is linear, homogeneous and isotropic. Okay. Now let us see the example of bar. Okay. Transfer. I repeat, bar. It's not beam. It is bar. I will take a very, very small element. I consider it here. Now the stress that is acting here, suppose, is is say a delta x I took. In right hand side, you will find the stress acting is sigma x plus delta x comma t. That is, it's a function. The stress is a function of the longitudinal axis as well as time. In the left hand side, it is a function of the longitudinal axis as well as time. Also, even though I have shown it in a very slender, in a very uniform manner, but actually it has been, the property says that it is a of x. That means area is also varying with respect to the length. So the area here is a x plus delta x. Here area is a function of x. Okay. Okay. Now, when we see here, when we equate the forces here in the x direction, we will find that sigma x plus delta x t into a x plus delta x minus sigma x of t into a of x is equal to sigma a delta x u comma wt. That means d square u by dt square. What that actually mean? What that actually mean here? You see here m into area into delta x. What that actually mean? This is nothing but mass, right? Rho into a into delta x. This is mass into u. U square t by u d square u by dt square is equal to mass into acceleration, that is force. So force, and this force is equal to this stress into area in the right hand side and stress into area in the left hand side. Okay. So combinedly, when delta x tends to 0, I will be getting something like this. Okay. That means this entire term will be differentiated with respect to x. Now, what do you mean by constitutive relationship? We know that any relationship with x which correlates stress with strain is called constitutive relationship. So sigma x of t is equal to E into epsilon x of t, where epsilon represents the strain. Okay. And what is this strain? Strain displacement relationship is epsilon is equal to u comma s, that is u is nothing but a displacement in this direction here. Okay. Du by dx rather we can say. So if I correlate these two examples in this particular formula, I will get rho a d square u by dt square minus E a d u by dx whole differentiation with respect to x is equal to 0. So this is the equation of motion that we can get, or rather a force, the Newton's by using the equations the force balance equation, we can derive this particular equation of motion in bar. Now let us now consider the same thing and let us see the boundary conditions of it. What is the boundary condition you will find? You see here, if I bring it on the left hand side, if I bring this in the left hand side, I will get the same equation that I have here. So what is the boundary condition? The first boundary condition is the geometric boundary condition. What is the geometric boundary condition? As I told you, is there any slope? Slope is 0 or deflection is 0? We will see. Those are nothing but the geometric conditions. Then another boundary condition we have seen on the right hand side. This is nothing but the natural boundary condition. Okay, why? Because it deals with force. Is there any force here? No, it is no, there is no force. That is why sigma into area, the stress into area is equal to 0, or E into du by dx into a L of t, that is at a length of L, there is no such force acting, therefore it is a natural boundary condition. So these are the two boundary conditions that we will get. Okay, similarly we can try on to find the equation of motion for a bar having attached with a spring attached with the bar. There is a bar here, there is a spring here. We know that for bar, we have this expression, okay, and right hand side there was no force attached, but here what will happen is there will be some force acting here. Therefore, that will be k into y into u of t. That y, because this is right hand side, whatever expression, whatever force that will be acting here will be actually compensated by this elongation or the compression of the spring. So here the spring compression force is by default acting. Again, we will see the equation of spring. These expression of the spring can be derived from this equation. That is, here it is the mass attached. So my double dot plus ky is equal to k u L of t. Okay. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is for deriving the equation of motion for the torsion of the bar. Okay. So we are only considering torsion. We are not considering any type of stresses that is acting on the bar. So what is the assumption? It's a circular bar. Strain is small. No transverse motion. Okay, here we have taken a varying area, that is A is a function of x. So what we will do, we will take a very small area of it, very small, and we will try to analyze it here. So when I give a moment here, by default, if in here suppose this is m of x of t, in the right hand side it will by default, since it's in rest, complete rest, by default the moment will be generated m x plus t, x plus delta x comma t. That means the moment is also a function of time as well as the distance. Okay, now if you analyze it carefully in a very small area, you will find initially the I will make it in some green color. Say initially my something was my body was like this. Okay, yeah, my body was somewhere like this. Okay, but what happened is, because of this torsion, it twisted in this way. Okay, so you will find two things here. First, psi. So this twist is nothing but because of this shear strain. Okay, you have seen, right, in our class is in our strength of material. If something is there right now and if it twists like this, so this is nothing but our strain, shear strain. So this is nothing but our shear strain. Okay, because of the displacement of these rather, so this is nothing but our shear strain. Okay, this is shear strain. Now let us see the angle that had been, so because of this moment there is some twist, right, in the angle. So this is nothing but a small rotation that took place. This is delta phi. Okay, so mathematically we can calculate, we will find r into, that is radius of that diameter at this cross section, into delta phi, that is nothing but this r into delta phi means what? This distance, right, is equal to delta x, this delta x into psi. Okay, this shear strain. Finally we will get psi is a function of r and t is nothing but r into d phi by dx. Okay, that is shear strain is equal to r into d phi, that is d phi by dx. So we know that by the constitutive relationship with respect to the shear stress and strain, tau is equal to, that is shear stress is equal to directly proportional to shear strain, and shear stress is equal to modulus of rigidity into shear strain. And what is this shear strain? Phi, we have already find it is R into d phi by dx. Okay. So now we will simply put it here. Now what is moment? Moment, we know that moment is equal to R into force. Okay, R into force. And what is integrating? Integrating with respect to the area. And what is this tau dA? Or rather, we can see here, we have already defined it. We will, if you apply the constitutive relationship, finally we will get something like this. Okay, and here we will get like this. And for what is this? G d phi by dx integration of ax in r square dA. Okay, what is this r square dA? Here in case of shear stress, it is nothing but the polar moment of inertia, IP, generally defined by. Therefore, moment is equal to G IP d phi by dx. Now let us consider a ring. Okay, we know that the net torque is equal to, rather a torque is equal to the difference in the moments. So torque delta T is equal to m x plus delta x comma T minus m of xt. That is difference in the torque. I will simply put here what all things I have seen. Rho into dA into delta x. What is this? This is nothing but my mass. What is r square? Mr square is nothing but my I. Okay, inertia rather. Then d square phi by dt square is what? It is nothing but the acceleration, angular acceleration. Yes or no? So this entire term is nothing but my I into alpha. That is nothing but the net torque that is acting. And this can be written in terms of G IP x plus delta x d phi by dx here. And this again mx of t can be written as G into polar moment of inertia into d phi by dx of x plus delta x into t. So finally I will get an expression in this way. So this is the equation of motion for a body, this will be the equation of motion for a body undergoing pure torsion. Okay. So let us then see about variational principle, or rather we can say Hamilton's variational principle. Let us see, but before that, let me see. Okay. Yeah. So this is Hamilton's variational principle. So all of us might have thrown a stone, right? So whenever we throw a stone, it goes in a parabolic motion. Okay. So whenever you throw a stone, you might have observed that it goes with a fixed parabolic motion. There might be a possibility from one point to end point, from point A to point B, the stone might have gone from this point also, this point also, but only it traces to this point only. What is the reason behind it? This reason behind this was explained by Hamilton's principle. So the Hamilton's principle tell us to identify the path. Okay, this is because of the property called Lagrangian. Okay, Lagrangian is actually a function of kinetic energy and potential energy of a point. Remember, this is of a point. Lagrangian operator is actually used at a point. So this Lagrangian is actually difference between kinetic energy and potential energy. For kinetic energy, we generally use T as our term, and for potential energy, we use V. As we all know, kinetic energy is very simple, half mv square. Potential energy, however, can be different for different type of objects. For example, say a bar or a beam, whatever you take, potential energy we can define it with respect to the strain energy. For spring, it itself has a the spring energy that is half kx square. For beam and bar, its strain energy is, I think, half sigma epsilon, sigma into epsilon into its volume. So this is nothing but the potential energy at any point for different machine elements and all. But anyways, so what is this L we told? It's a difference of kinetic energy and potential energy at a point. Okay. Now I1, I repeat, this is either you can say 1 or you can say 2 or you can say 3, whatever at anything. This is nothing but the action integral. Okay. So the path it's very important, the path along which the action integral is maximum or minimum. It's not just maximum or it is minimum, it is both. Either it can attain maximum or minimum, the ball will be following that path. Okay, that means the ball will follow that path where at the point, means it will ultimately go through point by point formula, right? So each point where our difference in the kinetic energy and potential energy is attain either maximum or minimum, it is otherwise known as extremum, that will be the path of our trajectory. So this can be defined by di, that is variation. Di, this integration, action integration can be represented in this way, that is di is equal to delta, we can write it delta rather, not di, we can call it as a delta. We can call it as a delta. Delta I is equal to delta of integration t is equal to t1 to t is equal to t2, L of dt is equal to 0. Okay, so where our variation is 0, that is the path where the point that is traced by the ball in the path. Okay, so what is Hamilton's variational principle? It states that the actual path followed by a conservative. What is conservative? I told you, conservative system, that is, it's a system where the force can be derived from a scalar mechanical function. Okay, where the force can be derived from a scalar mechanical function. It's the path actually followed by a conservative holonomic dynamical system over a fixed time interval over which the line integral of a Lagrangian L is extremum, either maximum or minimum. Okay, so therefore again repeating this definition, Hamilton variational principle states that the actual path followed by the conservative holonomic dynamical system over a fixed time interval over which line integral of a Lagrangian L is extremum, either maximum or minimum. Now let's see the derivation. It's very important. Derivation of L using the Lagrangian using Hamilton's variational principle. Now why this thing is important here? This thing is important because we will be using to derive these things actually for Hamilton's principle to derive the equation of motion of same bar, beam, or the beam or the bar under torsion, or rather string also, for deriving the same equation of motion that we have derived earlier. What is the advantage of it? We will see. So let us see here, we have already told this variational principle, that is del I is equal to integration, or rather sorry, it's delta integration t is equal to t1 to t is equal to t2, L of dt is equal to 0. So what I will replace, this L is known as nothing but the difference in kinetic energy and potential energy. What is kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is nothing but the function of what? In a general sense, it is a function of x as well as x dot. Here we write qk and qk dot. Okay, and what is potential energy function of? It is only a position of it's a potential energy, actually a function of configuration, that is only qk. They are generalized coordinates of it. Okay, that means delta I is equal to integration of see here, this is a property, this delta can go inside also. Okay, without any issue, this within integration and outside also. We will see while deriving all these things, we will see all those things that we come across. So this delta t, that is kinetic energy, a function of qk and qk dash minus del of v qk dt is equal to 0. Okay, so this is the value of delta in an expanded way. So Euler theorem, what Euler's theorem says, it's very simple, right? Euler's theorem is derives the total derivative of any function. Suppose this is my function, its total derivative will be del f by del x into dx plus del f by del y into d, it's actually dy rather, not dx, it's dy, then plus del f by del z into dz. So this is nothing but our Euler's theorem, which it has derived the total derivative of this f, which is a function of x, y, z. Now you see here, what I will do is I will simply expand it. In order to do it, what I can write, del t, del is a function of k and qk dot, right? So what can I write? Del t by, so integration t is equal to t1 to t is equal to t2, that is del t by del qk into delta qk, sorry, I can use a different pen, yeah, delta qk plus del t by del qk dot into delta qk dot minus del v, since v is only a function of qk. So del v by del qk into delta qk into whole into dt is equal to 0. So I will be left with, what I will do is I will bring this term here and I will take this term here, just a basic algebraic manipulation. I will bring it here in this way. I will be getting delta qk term in one side and delta qk dot term in other side. Okay, so this is what is left in front of us. Now this equation belongs to a single particle, right? Because we have told that Lagrangians apply to a particle. Okay, because the particles, each and every particle when joined, it forms a path. Now what I will be doing is I will summing up for all particles. So that is why I used a summation. Suppose there are k particles in the path, I will just sum it up. Here also I will use a k and just sum it up. So when these two terms are summed up, and this expression becomes like this. Okay, now yeah, we all know that qk dot is nothing but the x dot, it's generalized coordinate, it's a function of time only. So I will get something like this expression. Okay, as I told you that delta will yeah, that's fine. Okay, so when I observe it, so I will get something like this. Okay, that is here it has been mentioned, right, del q dot by del t. So what I will do, simply I will write del q, I will expand what is this qk, it is nothing but del k by del t. Okay, del k, there is no dot here, rather I can erase it, otherwise you will get confused. Okay, there is no dot here. We have simply expanded this qk by because del this qk by kt, we can write it del qk dot, here was there, here it was qk dot, here it was qk dot. So I have simply expanded it here, del qk by del t is equal to 0. Once I get it, I will be getting an expression like this. Okay, because as I know that this variation is actually can interchange with respect to differentiation, with respect to integration. So I will simply bring this here. Okay, this is del t del qk of dt, and so we will, my prime focus will be this one. Okay, so what I will do is, this is nothing but first function and this is my second function. Okay, so what I will here in the below one, these from below, now I will be only focusing on this one. I will keep these first term as a constant. First term means first term of this entire equation as a constant. This second term actually can be divided into two terms. First one, this one, and this is the second one. Okay, now what I will, since it's an integration by parts, okay, we know that, right, it's an integration of parts. So what I will do, I will expand it. We know that integration of u v, rather it's actually something like this, just excuse me, it is u dv, rather integration of u dv is equal to, I will rewrite it for you in a simple manner. U dv is equal to, suppose this is my second function and this is my first function. Okay, so how can I can write uv minus integration of u into first function co-differentiate. I will differentiate it and then v. This is the way I can write. Okay, so this is the way I can write. So the same thing I will be doing here. So what I will, this is my first, this becomes my first function, this becomes my first function, and this becomes my second function. I can use it in some different markers. This becomes my second function. So the first function, when I do it, what I will do is I will keep this term first function outside, integrate it, then I will be integrate and then differentiate the first function and again integrate the second function. Okay, this is the first function, this is second function, first function, second function. Okay, it may look like complicated thing, but it's very simple actually. Initially it may look like very complicated thing, but actually it is very simple. You need to practice once or twice in order to gain some grip over it. So the whole equation, now I got in an expanded way, I got this equation for the second term. For this big equation, this is the second term, second big term. I've expanded it and I got this one. It was already present, I have never touched it. Now I will see here, I will simply expand it, I will simply place it now, this equation here. So once I put it, I got, you see here, del t by del qk, del v by del qk. What I can write? Del of del qk into t minus v, delta of qk into dt, plus what is that? The entire term that I received here, I just put it here. Okay. Once I put it, now this here comes the very important term. Variation at the end points is equal to what? Is equal to 0. Okay, this delta qk at t1 t2 is what? It will be 0. So this second term will be completely 0. Okay, now when this second term will complete, what all things will be left? This first term and this third term will be left. I will be simply put it here. Okay, again I will try to yeah, simplify it. If it is possible, rather, we can see here the two terms, the two suffixes here is delta qk dt, delta qk dt. So finally I will get summation of k, that is because there are k particles, integration t1 to t2 d by dqk into t minus v minus of d by dt dt by qk dot of del qk into dt is equal to 0. So what I will do, I will take this term this side. So d by dqk t minus v is equal to d by dt into dt by dqk dot. Okay. So I hope it is clear. So these things have been found. And what is t minus v? T minus v is nothing but your L. Okay. And yeah. Yes. So here, from here I got d by, if you see here, this is nothing but the same thing that has been done. So yeah, there is no such thing that we haven't yeah, okay. So d by dqk into t minus v is equal to d by dt del of t minus v into qk del qk dot. So d by dt of del into qk dot t minus v minus of del qk into t minus v. Now you see here, yes, if you find here, there is a term called yeah, in the right hand side there is a term, right? I have not expanded it. If you expand it, you will find, sorry, total suppose, let us see, del t minus v by del qk dot. So del t by del qk dot minus del v by del qk dot. Now we know the only kinetic energy is actually a function of qk dot, not the potential energy. So therefore this particular term will be 0. That means del in the left hand side, sorry, it's not right hand side, it's left hand side. We will expand this one rather. Okay, if you expand it properly, you will find that del qk with respect to del qk dot, I'm sorry, here it is del qk, it is not del qk dot, but just observe it carefully. That means del t minus v is, can we write, right? Del t minus v qk dot is equal to how much? Is equal to del t by del qk dot. Therefore this particular thing can be written as, I am sorry, I'm sorry for that, because we are trying to establish the relation between t in terms of t and v. Okay, dt by dqk dot in terms of t minus v. So we finally found here that del of t minus v by del of qk dot is equal to del t minus del qk dot. Okay, that means del t by qk dot, I can simply put here del t minus v del qk dot. So once you put here, you will get something like this. Okay, so what is this t by v? We can replace it with L. You can simply replace it with L. So this is nothing but the Lagrange equation of motion using Hamilton's principle. This is very, very important. Why it is important? Because using this we can also derive the equation of motion for a continuous structures. Okay, so if you are reading Hamilton's principle, just look at the Galenkin's method also. It's one of the numerical, rather it is not required right now, so I won't be discussing. I will try to discuss it at the last, which is right now it is not so relevant. Galenkin, it's a numerical method, just like Newton-Raphson or Simpson's 1/3 rule and all. So it is a numerical method to solve the equations. It is just a solving how to find the polynomial equation of integrations for polynomial, rather differential equations. So yeah, so finally what we derive this one. Yeah, using the variational so generalizing the procedure for wait, let me again correlate with what we have yeah, this is what we have derived till now. Okay, this is very very important because it is actually a Lagrange principle, and the Lagrange equation of motion using Hamilton's principle. Let us go now to page number 21 rather. uh, yeah. So, if I observe it carefully, generalizing the procedure for the variational principle, it is the same thing that we have derived in so far, whatever we have discussed, the same thing we have done, and find the equation of motion in this way. Okay. And we have already discussed what is the meaning of w comma t or w comma x. Okay. So these are the ways through which you can find all these things. So now the most important thing here is, you see here, entire so in the left hand side there are terms like del t, del by del t, del w by del l by del w comma t, plus del by del t, del w by del w x, minus del l by del w. The w represents the vertical displacement on string or bar or anything is equal to 0. So what we will do is, here is, we'll find, so what we can get from the Hamiltons is a very powerful tool. What we can do is, we can get is, see, right hand side it is 0, right? That means del by del t of del L by del W or dw by dt is equal to 0. So this term is becomes 0. dw by dt, this is geometric term. From here we can get also w of at the initial, from the boundary conditions, we can find the geometric term is equal to 0. W of L comma t is equal to 0, or dl, the same thing here. If we apply, that is del L by del wx at x is equal to, so this is nothing but the natural boundary condition, this is geometric boundary condition. Based on our requirement, based on our scenario, we can see what all things are there. Now the deriving the equation of motion of longitudinal variational using the generalizing vibrational principle. So the same thing that we did for the Newton's means the law, the balancing the forces in the vertical as well as horizontal direction, the same thing we will be doing here also using Hamilton's principle. So what we will do, as I told you, for Hamilton's principle there are two energies that we consider at any point. First, the kinetic energy, and second is the potential energy. Okay, so for a bar having a horizontal displacement u of x comma t rho a e l, these are the properties of that bar. What is the kinetic energy? Is equal to half mv square. As we know, what is this mass? This mass can be derived by rho into a into dx u comma t square, integration 0 to L. Okay, this is the kinetic energy. What is potential energy? Potential energy, as I told you, that it's nothing but the strain energy, and strain energy is how much? Half sigma epsilon into dv integration. Okay, so sigma into epsilon, as we know, it is nothing but the strain energy per unit volume, and yeah, this a d square u by dx square, rather uh, not going to be you will find this in this way, rather this is the final way. Can't see how it got e square. No, there is no term like this, because no, there will be no such term like this. Rather, you will only get stress into strain into this volume. This will be the total strain energy. Now if I use the formula of stress and strain, rather constituent relationship which we call epsilon is equal to du by dx, sigma is equal to e into du by dx, we'll finally get v is equal to half e a into the d square u by dx square into dx. Okay, now correspondingly, what with the Lagrangian at that particular point, it is t minus v, that is this one. Okay, so del by del t into del L by del u du by dx, rather this one, and you just remember this one. This is very very important. Just put it here. Okay, once you will put it here, you will finally get the equation of corresponding motion. Okay, so as I told you, it was simply used to find the corresponding equation of motion. Not just equation of motion you can derive, you can also derive the boundary conditions that is involved here. You see the boundary condition, you see the boundary conditions that are involved here. Just compare it with 0. Okay, uh, this del L by del ux, rather x is equal to 0 here. Here, that is what del u, what is actually represent? This represents, I think, del L by, yeah, Lagrangian, right? Yes, this is one boundary condition and this is another boundary condition. It represent, and these are nothing but the geometric boundary conditions. Yes, u of x0 t, these are geometric boundary condition. And in a bar, the deflection is 0. This, I think, represents the deflection. Okay, okay, and here it is nothing but your shear stress that is acting, shear force rather, it is acting at the end at lt is equal to 0. Okay, and there is no such deflection here, so displacement also can be, we can say it as, I think this is strain rather, dl by dux, but leave it. These are the four boundary conditions which we get. Okay, similarly, let us say what is for torsional bar. Torsional bar, what is the T? That is kinetic energy, half integration 0 to L rho IP phi d phi by dt, d square phi by dt square dx. Potential energy, half integration 0 to L, again area integral of gamma tau dA dx. So gamma is equal to R d phi by dx, shear stress is equal to GR d phi by dx. So this Lagrangian equal to half rho IP d square phi by dt square minus half g IP d square phi by dx square. So using this Lagrange, putting this Hamilton variational Hamilton's principle, we can correspondingly find the equation of motion of here. Boundary conditions means at this particular point this twist angle will be 0. Okay, then at the end x is equal to L, what we can say, it is shear for the torsional shear stress is equal to 0. And again at gi phi, that means I think shear stress at the at L also equal to 0. These are a natural boundary condition, this is geometric boundary condition, and again this is, of course, it is I think natural boundary condition at the starting of the beam. Okay, so this finishes our discussion. There is one small numerical method that I want to discuss, which is Galen-Green principle. We generally come across, so we will see that Galen-Green method is similar to that of to find the value of a polynomial, a differential equation. To find the value of differential equations, we generally use what? I think Newton-Raphson method we use, and for integration we use Simpson's 1/3 rule. So Galen-Green method is actually used for finding the solution of a differential equation. Okay, so I will do it using step, means solving, because numerical method you don't need to bother about steps. Just solve one problem, you can get the value of entire thing. So let us see here. It has been given that the differential equation is d square y by dx square plus 3x into dy by dx minus 6y is equal to 0. X lying between 0 to 1, y of 0 is equal to 1, y dash of 1 is equal to 0.1. Find y of 0.2 by Galen-Green method. So as we all know, this can be also solved by our different methods, analytical methods, but I will try to solve it in a numerical method, which will give value which is not actually exact. Okay, let's start here. So what we will do is we will consider a polynomial equation here. We will consider a polynomial equation with the order n plus 1, where n is nothing but the order of the partial differential equation or differential equation. Here the differential equation is of the order 2. So I will consider a polynomial with greater than 1. That is y is equal to c0 plus c1x plus c2x square plus c3x cube. Okay. Okay. Y is equal to c0 plus c1x plus c2x square plus c3x cube. Y dash is equal to c1 plus 2c2 plus 3c3x square. Okay, I know that y dash, when I put the value of 0.1, I will get a corresponding equation like this in terms of c1, c2, c3. There's another initial conditions they have given, y of 0 is equal to 1. When I put here, I will get the corresponding value of what? I will get the corresponding value, I think, of c0, because this will be 0, this will be 0, and this will be 0. So c0 will be equal to 1. From here I will get c0 is equal to 1. So finally I will be reducing this entire term in terms of only two variables, that is three variables, that is C1, C2, C3? No, two variables. Why? Because I have already differentiated this. So I can rewrite C1 in terms of C2 and C3. Okay, now when I can write in terms of C2 and C3, I can directly substitute this entire function in terms of C2 and C3. Okay, got the point? C2 and C3, got the point or not? So I can completely derive this. I have completely substituted, or rather reduced this entire function in terms of y function in terms of two variables C2 and C3. Now my objective is to find this value of C2 and C3. Now how I will find? So I can find it by using residue. What is residue actually? Residue is nothing but this differential equation only. So this is my residue. Residue is y double dash plus 3xy dash minus 6y. Okay. So what I will do, I will simply put y double dash value, y dash value and this equation, and I get the corresponding value of r. So whatever r value I will get, I will be getting obviously in the terms of C2 and C3. I got this r in terms of C2 and C3. Okay. Now we have two things, y and r. Okay. Y also in terms of C2 and C3 and r also in terms of C2 and C3. Now we will use a weighted function. What is a weighted function? It's a very simple, actually very simple. Actually an equation we will use integration 0 to 1 weighted function, that is I tends to 1 or 2, whatever I will see, weighted into this residue that we have derived into dx is equal to 0. So integration 0 to 1 weighted function into residue in dx is equal to 1. Now here if you see, there are two residue. These residues, these weighted functions can be derived from this y. From here we can find that weighted. This is one weighted function and this is another weighted function. So let us take w1 is equal to x square minus 2x and w2 is equal to x cube minus 3x. I just put it. Okay. So once I put it, I will simply put it here. I will integrate it from 0 to 1. I will put it here. Okay. W1 r dx is equal to 0. I will get this one. Okay. Then again I is equal to 2, integration 0 to 1, w2 into r dx, rather dx is equal to 0. So I will get another equation. So I have two equations, this equation and this equation. When I will solve it, I can correspondingly get the corresponding value of C1 and C2. And when I will put the value, find the corresponding equation of C1 and C2, I can simply put it here, y of C2 and C3. Got the point or not? C2 and C3 is the two variables that we need. Once I get the corresponding value of C3, I can get the corresponding value of y, total y. And once I get the corresponding value of y, I can simply put the value of question that has been asked here. I think they have asked the value of y of 0.2, right? I can put in the terms of x, we can put simply x is equal to 0.2. So we can get the value of this. So this is nothing but a Galenkin principle. This is very famous, generally used for, especially in the thesis paper, which requires analysis on vibrations. We generally use Galenkin method for deriving the equation of for solving partial differential equation. So this was all from my end, and I hope you liked the video. Do share and subscribe my channel. There are many things to come, especially which is related to gate. Thank you very much.